Hey, everybody. Welcome into Day by Day with Alex. I'm James. There's a lot that's gone on in Husker Nation in the last few days, and so we're going to get into all of it. We're brought to you by characterchronicles.com. You can find us there. Also on Apple, YouTube, Spotify. Give us a like and a subscribe. Helps more people find the show. We are grateful that you have tuned in. We actually are now beyond 200 subscribers, 210, which I feel somewhat accomplished. That's great. There's a lot of YouTube channels out there that have nothing. But first, we're going to address the elephant in the room. Mike is not here. Mike's not been here for a while. In fact, Alex, since you've come on the show, Mike has not been on.
Yeah, pretty much. I think we've done like 2 episodes together.
And I know that some people like Mike. A lot of people like Mike. And so they might think, man, is Mike off the show? The answer is yes, but no. Mike just had a baby. Well, not Mike, his wife. Props to Mike's wife for having the baby. New job, just some things changing, and so Mike is on a hiatus. So he'll be back at some point.
Yeah,
we love Mike, and we appreciate his Husker takes.
Yeah, and as a fellow new father, I definitely empathize with his situation. And they already have other kids.
They already have
too, right?
one. Yes.
So like,
yes, they already have.
I put mine down, and that's it for the night.
You got
God willing, he doesn't wake up, but I empathize.
Well, I tell you what, you in the watchers, listeners, viewers, whatever you're called, you wouldn't know this because the edit button is powerful. There has been a few times where this door behind me has opened up in the middle of recording with a child who is in need of their parent. And so parenting is hard, and Mike's in the midst of it. So, okay, we got a lot to get to tonight. We didn't record a post-game reaction last week when we were chatting about it, the four of us after the game, actually during the game. I think it was like third quarter. I texted you guys and I said, I'm not doing it tonight. I don't want to. I'm exhausted. How did you feel? We could do a little game recap right now. How did you feel coming out of that game against Minnesota?
I think all the big talk shows have kind of hit on it really well. Like Friday night felt like somewhere in between Indiana last year and UCLA. I have a ton of respect for Kurt Cignetti, especially as he's maintained.
Mm-hmm.
But you still feel like, as Nebraska, what happened last year at Indiana should never happen to you at Indiana.
Yeah.
Now, the tides are turning a little bit, and they should get a lot more respect than they've been given by
100%.
by our fan base, 100%. But at the time, with who they had played, you're like, that should never happen. But UCLA last year was kind of like the backbreaker for me. And I don't know, like hearing Matt Rule talk on Monday made it feel even worse in some ways. Like couldn't get the coaches to lock in or whatever he said. And hearing what their offensive coordinator said today, like, yeah, we ran more I formation because it forces you to play physical. And I don't know, man, like it's really disheartening, but at the same time, it's also super easy. I don't want this to come off as an excuse. I want it to be more of a reality of the situation. This is the youngest team in the Big Ten. You are going to have some high highs and some some low lows with a team that is 90 sophomores and freshmen. You just are.
Yeah. Let's talk about the coaching. Because I think I felt terrible watching the game. Offensively, for sure, one of the worst performances I've seen in a while. Didn't score a touchdown. You don't score a touchdown and you win. okay, that's probably a really ugly game. There's probably some weather involved, right? Nebraska's had one of those. They've had a few of those over the years. This was not that. Dejected is a great term. I kind of felt better, but worse after Matt Rule's presser. Like there was a part of me that was like, angry Matt Rule is my favorite Matt Rule. I like that. I think with other sports, basketball, baseball for sure, you have to be a little more cerebral because you got another shot in 2 days. Baseball, we got to play again tomorrow, right? Baseball is kind of like, okay, whatever, we're going to play another 50 games. Basketball, well, we got another 20 games left. It's okay. Football is like, we got 12 shots and I need to be angry, and we get to go out on the practice field tomorrow and hit somebody. And so I like that, Matt Rule. But to your point with the whole comment about the coaches, like that was really concerning. I understand he's trying to take ownership. He tried to clarify by saying, I didn't do a good enough job communicating it. I didn't do a good enough job helping them understand what Minnesota is like. And a part of me was like, but there's a lot of guys on the staff who were here when Minnesota beat us 2 years ago. I know it was a different game. We had more turnovers, but Minnesota always plays the same kind of game against Nebraska. And so that was really puzzling to me. I didn't really know what to make of that. Like, why, as the adults in the room, weren't you the ones saying, hey, let's take this opponent serious? We're going into their house. They didn't have to travel 2 weeks in a row. They had 2 home games in a row. So you're going to have to bring your energy because they're going to have it. They have their home crowd behind them, and they tend to play better ball in late October and November. And so I don't know why that happened. I don't think anybody ever will. And it's probably never going to be, it's not like Rule or other coaches are going to talk about why that was the case. I just found it to be really concerning. I just like that. That was the last thing I wanted to hear in a press conference 2.5 years after you were hired. I thought it was a good press conference, but it was concerning. That one part was the most concerning thing I think I've heard.
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch on the angry Matt Rule thing too. I'm familiar with coaches doing this in the basketball world. I've seen them do it in the football world. And it's something that I wish Matt would do more of, but has kind of shied away from it. And I think you kind of have to shy away from it in the NIL era with the transfer portal. So take this with a grain of salt. But like when you have a young team like that, even in the basketball world where you have an opportunity 2 nights later, like sometimes the guy running the show has to be enemy number 1 to the team. Like you have to make everybody hate you so they're united all the time in one thing. Like in a way of like, can we just shut him up for 2 hours? Like, and then
That's an interesting thought. Yeah.
If you do it the right way, at the end of the season, everybody realizes what happened. They realize that you were doing it out of love. You were doing it out of a way to get them to a common goal. Now, the ultimate common goal is way down the road, but sometimes when you're a team this young, you can only see 3 hours in front of you, and just getting you off their backs for the next 3 hours is part of that. So like it's probably outside of his realm of where he wants to be as a coach. It's harder to do in this era of college sports, but it's something that I would not hate to see him to try to steer into a little bit. I think Kurt Cignetti does it the right way.
That's interesting. And I would say maybe you'd agree with this. If you're like that all the time, then I think players are like, oh gosh, he's just a jerk. Like I don't want to play for him. If you're never like that, you're like Mike Riley, right? You're on that side of things. So I think, picking your spots, this would be a spot where you had to pick your spot. When he said, I want to know your thoughts on this. The Rule said, I'm pissed off at the coaches. I'm pissed off at myself. But then he said, I'm not angry at the players. And I'm wondering if he just said that to say it, because I'm like, they're the ones still you going out there. You either run the wrong route, you don't hit the guy, you miss the tackle, you don't make the block. Like at some level, coaching stops and play happens.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I'll be the first one to tell you, like, as a coach, you can only do so much to put the team in a position to succeed. Now, at the end of the day, I mean, and well, I'm sure we'll touch on John Butler's comments, but like at a certain point, like even if you do everything you can do as a coach and the team's still failing, if you're a good coach, that eats at you at night. It causes lack of sleep.
Yep.
I think where Matt Rule's coming from is in some ways, like, and it'll go into Luke Lindenmeyer's comments too. Like, I wish I would have said something because I noticed some things, right? Like, if the staff noticed, like, I think what Matt's saying is him and the staff noticed it and thought that the team had come far enough that they could just flip that switch Friday night.
Yeah.
It's
good.
But deep down, Matt and the staff also know that they're not there yet.
That's good. Yeah, I think that this is a team. Now, people say different makeup from previous years. Agree. But that doesn't mean they're immune from those lapses where you just think, man, we've been smelling ourselves and we like the way we smell and we're ranked 25th. I would say ranked 25th. Like, who cares? You might as well not be ranked when you're 25th. It really does stink from a fan's perspective, because this narrative is also true now. It's still true. Well, Nebraska got ranked again, and what happened? Stubbed their toe, biffed it, fell flat on their face, out of the rankings. That's the part where a mentally fragile team shows up. That's what's most frustrating, I think, coming out of that loss, was you had a chance to prove you were worthy of that ranking. And Rule talked about that you would earn that. Now, let's go back to coaching. I'm curious what you thought about the game plan, because Rule also talked about that in his press conference. He didn't seem really happy, especially with the defensive game plan. He called it kind of vanilla. And then John Butler kind of owned up to it. He was kind of like, yeah, I don't know how he put it. He's like, I got afraid. I was a little skittish. I wasn't aggressive, however he phrased it. It did just seem like a very slow defensive effort where they weren't attacking, and you could see it happening. It's not like Minnesota was lights out. They just did the basic stuff to move the football and win the game.
You know what? I'm going to break it down a little bit, but you know what the most frustrating part of that was for me as a fan and somebody who watches offense really closely, is how many drag routes that we got burned on. Third and 8 drag route, like things that I've been begging for a decade, basically since you've seen me on Twitter, right?
For us to do for Nebraska's offense, yeah. But I'll point out, Alex, and you know this because we texted about it. Like, we didn't. Dana didn't call 40 drag routes throughout the game.
No,
but there were some, and they were there.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan refused to pull the trigger for whatever. Now we'll come back to that, but I just wanted to acknowledge we did have some of it.
Yeah,
not to the extent that Minnesota had.
I was from a pass coverage standpoint, I was blown away by continuously giving up inside leverage on those and slants. Like, make Drake Lindsay beat you on the outside with a perfect ball. Now, he did throw a beautiful ball on that touchdown, but is he doing that 20 times a game? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And then, John Butler said as much. That 71-yard run, I let it affect me more than it should have. Every play has its own lifespan. Um, and I think that's true in every sport, right? Like
Yep.
every play has its own like learn from that mistake, but don't let it deter you from doing something else. And I've been in this position as an athlete, like when your coach is paralyzed, your coordinator, your play caller, whatever it is, like
What are you going to do? As a
that's
player?
where guys, and I think we started to see it, is guys trying to do too much and play outside of themselves, which is how you start not tackling well, how you lose containment, how you don't fill your run fits because you're just trying so hard to make a play, to wake everybody up, and not just your teammates, but also the play caller.
Yep.
And so, on the, I'm gonna say it on both sides of the ball. The two major components, the play callers let the team down.
Yep.
Now the team did not perform. Like that's not an excuse for them, but they didn't do a lot to help them be successful.
It was really the perfect storm in terms of two bad game plans, offense, defense, and then the players just not executing, not bringing their own energy. Again, that's something I don't understand as somebody who would give anything. I've been working on my house for the last 3 days. I would give anything not to have my back hurt, right? I would give anything to be 20 again and go back out on the field and play.
Yeah.
I get jazzed when somebody's like, "Hey, James, you want to play ultimate frisbee?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm 41. I'm going to be the most competitive person on this field. And I don't know if I can keep up with you, but that's how competitive I am. I would give everything to go do it one more time." And so it doesn't compute to me that I'm like, you're out here and there's 50,000 people, whatever Minnesota has, 55, 60,000, who they hate your team. Don't you want to shut them up? Like that's the side of it. I don't, and you know this because we've talked about it. I know I'm getting off track. I don't think it's wise for fans to often say, well, they gave up. They weren't ready. They didn't want to be there. It was really hard for me to say that it looked like Nebraska wanted to be there. And I never say that. But this last Friday was the closest I think I've seen to a team just going through the motions. And it's like, I don't want to question their heart. They're kids. But man, collectively, like there were some bright, like I think Emmett played his butt off. He just didn't get the ball enough.
Yeah.
In his home city, which I think is a shame. Archie had a good game. I think there were some guys on defense, I think, who played hard, maybe weren't always in the right spot, play didn't find them. But collectively, man, it's just like it was the perfect storm. Bad game plan, bad execution, bad effort, bad body language. And that's why you lose by 18 points when that happens.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, perfect storm. Perfect storm. I don't like to use the short week excuse because they were also on a short week, but just you could tell somebody was more comfortable showing up to that game than the other team. Right, wrong, or indifferent. It's not an excuse. It's a mindset thing. Nebraska needs to fix that mindset, but nothing about the way Nebraska came out was comfortable.
Agree. Okay, so we're going to put Minnesota behind us because we can't change it. I think Husker Nation is a little bit in meltdown mode, to be honest. I don't think I am. I don't think you are. I just think when you scroll through Twitter, you're like, man, everybody's just freaking melting down. Like they just think, I don't think this team will go 6-6. They might. But my hope is we're going to learn a lot on Saturday, right? Like my hope is going in, you're going to face a team that's more like Minnesota than any other team on your schedule to date. Because Iowa's the ultimate like Minnesota. They are their own category, but they don't throw the
I'd
ball
say
as
it
much
might
as
be forced
Minnesota.
to be it by the time we get them too.
Yeah. So does Nebraska recognize that? And this is something I want to chat about. I'm still trying to decipher what Rule meant in the press conference when he talked about we need to stop talking about what we want to do and what we should do. Do you remember that comment?
I missed that comment, but
So I don't know what he meant. What I took it as was rather than, saying like by saying we need to do what we should do. I think what he's saying is can we exploit the other team and their weaknesses rather than just go in with this idea of, well, this is us. It's like the NFL. We just do what we do. Like, but just like any other sport, especially in college, like football is just so much, it's so matchup based. And so Minnesota gave up 250 rushing yards the week before. And I truly believe if Nebraska had committed to the run game, they would have easily had 200. I believe that. So I'm trying to figure out if they're going to be ready to do that against Northwestern, who has a decent defense. But what is it about Northwestern's defense that you can take advantage of? Are you going to have 400 yards of offense and 40 points? Probably not. But how can you get 20 to 28 points, which will probably be enough to beat Northwestern? I want to believe the coaching staff can get there, but there's been things this year on both sides of the ball that just make me wonder, like, man, is that kind of how does our coaching staff think that way?
So I'm gonna flip it back on you a little bit.
Yeah.
This is the way I like when I had young teams or struggling teams when I was coaching. I stopped worrying so much about scouting. What does the other team do? And just focused on what
What
we
you do
did.
well. Yeah.
And
Alex, what
we
does Nebraska do well right now?
I'm going to give you a small list. I think they're pretty good at outside zone and counter run. I think Emmett is great at pressing the hole and then cut back. I think he's one of the best in the country at that. I think they're really good at quick game and passing, like screens, slants, all 5-yard hooks. I think they're great at all of those. But something that I've been calling for a couple of weeks, I've said on the show a couple of times, I think this offense looks best when running tempo. And there's a variety of reasons for that. One,
100% agree.
when you run tempo, let me back up real quick. I think a huge part of the problem right now, offensively, specifically with sacks, holding on to the ball too long, whatever you want to pinpoint as a pain point for offense in the passing game around Dylan, is all the pre-snap freedom. I think teams are doing a great job of I'm going to call it punking him at the line of scrimmage. That's probably a bad term, but I think they're doing a really good job of confusing him at the line of scrimmage. He's still a 19-year-old kid, and he's going against one of the best defensive conferences in the country.
Yeah, sure.
So I think when you go tempo, you lock that defense into pretty much their base set. Now they might blitz out of it, but they don't have time to get exotic. They can't really throw out a bunch of different personnel groupings. So I like going tempo for that reason alone. And then that really gives Dylan 2 plays to pick from. Nobody's really doing a whole lot of adjusting protections. A lot of the time there's a quick route, there's a deep route, and then there's a check down. Like they're very simple, and it allows Dylan to just read and react in the passing game. But you can also run out of tempo. And I don't think there's a 2-minute drill that they've ran this year that somebody can be like, they didn't look good there, because there isn't.
It's true.
And then on top of that, I think what tempo would do, I think part of Dana's problem I'm not going to talk about the scheme or the playbook thing. Like, Dana agreed to run whatever style of offense he's running within certain limits. I think at the end of the day, Dana hit on two things that I think one's a really bad excuse for a struggling offense, and I think the other one is a huge mental block. The first one that is a bad excuse is, we're only getting 55 plays. Somebody's not going to be happy. 50 to 55 plays, somebody's not going to get happy. One game we have to get Dane, we have to, force feed Dane Key, then Hunter, then Barney, and all this. Like, well, if you run tempo, you get more plays, you get more possessions, which solves that. And so essentially, what Dana was kind of getting at was he has too many weapons. I feel like he legitimately has more weapons than he's ever had. Now, do I think he has top end weapons like Justin Blackman at Oklahoma State? No, but I think he has more well-rounded weapons. So I think tempo helps there. But two, it gets more plays, and I think he wants to be closer to 70 to 75 plays a game, and in conference we're getting like 45 to 50, which means that's 20 less plays that he doesn't get to run. And that's just a reality of some of the teams you're going to play in this conference that are going to play that way. But against Maryland, he looked fine. You know why? Because Maryland likes to play a similar style. They like a lot of plays. I think if you played Oregon and USC, he's going to look better because of the style of game. Last year against Wisconsin.
That's the thing, I think, going into Northwestern, right? Like, Nebraska has to be the one to dictate the pace of the game and the tempo. They have to be the one that says, we're going to decide how this game's going to go. And they just didn't do that against Minnesota. And so if you don't do that organically by picking up first down after first down, on the first series, I agree. That's when you have to force the issue and say, we're going to go tempo. We're going to do the plays that we run best, that everybody's on the same page. There's nobody looking around going, oh, what are we doing? What are we running? Like these are the whatever they are, 10 to 15 plays that are our best plays. And we know we can march down the field doing this in rhythm, in tempo. So you just have to force that issue. Because if you let Northwestern do what Minnesota did, like, they're going to lose the game. You are.
You can't start with an RPO where the receiver doesn't catch the key that he's also supposed to run a route. Like, so you have to have like you said, your best 15
which I think
plays.
is what happened on the first play of the game, right?
Yeah.
Was it the first play?
First or second
play?
First sack.
Yeah, I think Hunter was blocking.
Mm-hmm.
He should have ran a route because Dylan was looking for him, I think.
Yeah.
So the Nebraska has to be the aggressor. And that, I mean, as a basketball player, like that's, if you play up tempo, but you're playing Princeton that day, like, if you let Princeton decide how the game is going to go, guess what's going to happen in the second half? It's going to be an ugly rock fight. It's going to end up 52 to 48, and you're going to get back to the locker room and you're going to go, how did we let this happen? Well, you let it happen because you let the other team dictate the game. And I think Dana has to be the aggressive one. And I know, and people, like, if you guys follow me on Twitter, like, I don't know if we should get into this. I don't know that Dana is really, I don't know if this is really his offense. And I know we've kind of gone back and forth about this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think it's his offense.
Whatever people want to say about air raid, I'm not talking about air raid as we all know it. I'm talking about whatever Dana's version of it is. And that doesn't mean, oh, we're going to run up tempo, we're going to throw the ball 70 times. No, it means we're going to move quickly. And the goal is to get yards to move down the field to score points. So if it's up tempo and you're running inside zone, outside zone, and you run that 7-8 times in a row, that's great. Whatever. But I think Dana needs to get to the point where he feels comfortable. And again, back to your point, I don't care who gets the ball. The goal is to score a touchdown. Like, don't worry about, well, man, Dane hasn't had the ball in 7 plays. Who cares? You're moving down the field. You've moved the ball 53 yards.
You know
Call
what
the
I
plays
think
that will
would
get in
help?
the end zone.
I think him and Butler have to get on the same mindset where like they each this team's built on complementary football, right? I think
100%.
part of Dana's fear or mental block probably has to do with a little bit with Butler's confidence in how well that defense can hold up, right?
Mm.
But I think if they looked at it as, all right, if we get the ball first, if we go score, you get one stop, we score again. The other team has to play into your strength, which is pass.
Pass. Yep.
If they get the ball first, you get a stop, we score. You get another stop,
Same
we
thing.
score. Same thing. Like you really
And
like
that's
they
the
should
thing.
break it into 4 possession games.
That's how you dictate the pace of a game.
Like
We're gonna
just give me 2 stops.
give me
You
two.
give me 2
Essentially, yeah,
stops. You give me 2 scores.
100%.
And then you're in control.
And against a team like Northwestern, that's. I mean, again, I know it happened with Michigan State and Maryland. They came back, but again, those teams play a style more like Nebraska's. That's why they were able to come back. If you're up 14-0 against Northwestern in the first quarter, Northwestern is not going to come back in the game. They're not. Why? Because you now have a competent special teams. Not competent. You have a top 20 special teams unit. Right. So what happened against Iowa, I'm trying to think how many years ago that was now, 3 or 4 years ago. I was at the game. They had the block punt in the end zone for a touchdown, and we all knew, here we go again. That doesn't happen anymore. You're not having a block punt. You're not giving up a huge punt. Again, the other teams still have -1 or right around 0 punt return yards. Like, because you have an elite special teams unit, a team like Northwestern is not coming back from 14-0. On sidebar, I think special teams is kind of that linchpin for a team to actually play complementary football.
Oh, 100%.
Without special teams, you cannot play complementary football because you could get a great stop on defense and then you muff a punt and then you're back out there on defense and you give up a touchdown because they only had to go 21 yards. Is that really on the defense?
Plenty of times.
Or you give up a touchdown. Okay, bummer, stinks. Offense, like, we got you. They kick off, and you muff the kickoff and you fumble it. You kick it out of bounds, and you're starting on the 8-yard line.
Or you march down the field, you answer with a touchdown really quickly, and then you give up a long kick return back anyways.
Or that. So special teams is the linchpin, and it's like the coaches have to know this, right? They're much smarter than me. I'm just verbally processing it. But if Nebraska can do that, do exactly what we're talking about, dictate the pace of play, get up a couple scores, 14 points, you're going to put Northwestern away. I'm really interested to see if they can do that.
So I'm going to give you a couple of things here. Rush play percentage, Northwestern is 21st in the country. They're 47th in the country in yards per rush and 29th in rushes per game at 39.3. 41st at 175 rush yards per game. If you can slow down the run, if you can get them into 3rd and long, here's where Nebraska should have the advantage. Now, the few times that we had the opportunity to take advantage of this against Minnesota, we failed because we gave up inside leverage. Pass play percentage for Northwestern, 116th in the country. Completion percentage, 122nd. Yards per pass, 114th. Pass yards per game, 121st. Interceptions thrown, 127th. And QB sacked, 60th.
See, John Butler has access to all these statistics, right? But also the film. He knows this. It's a matter of, will you get, like, it's, I want to say, like, it's easy for us because we're fans and we sit. So, I mean, we're subjective, but somewhat objectively because we're outside of
the wall.
We're outside. We're not in this fishbowl. But man, it's so easy for coaches to get inside their own heads. And it's like they have the little angel and the little demon on each shoulder. And you watch it in other games where you don't have an emotional investment. And you're like, why in the world are they calling the game this way? Why are they playing this way? And you see it all the time across sports. And coaches, like, if the elite coaches are the ones who don't get inside their own heads, and they stick to what they know. They stick to their DNA. If that's being uber aggressive, then do it. If it's you do something else, that's fine. But don't give up. Be true to yourself. And John Butler is a walking, talking, I am ready to run through a brick wall and fight anyone. Okay, well then be that. Don't try to be somebody else. That's not why you were hired.
You know what's I think this is a great analogy for what you're saying about like coaches getting too deep into it. Like I was having this conversation with somebody else the other day. Like there's a lot of things that look super simple to us who, by and large, relatively to the people that are watching film every day for Nebraska, are uneducated to the game, like at a comparative level.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are a coach or a player, sometimes you are too deep into it that you're just thinking to yourself, if I make that one block, if I throw that ball, changes everything, right? Like, so I think from a coordinator, like John Butler's position, I don't even know who Northwestern's offensive coordinator is, but they're head to head this week, right? You know what? He has all this data. We've talked about it. He has all the data. But at the end of the day, they are still essentially sitting across from each other playing Battleship.
Yep.
And he knows at some point he's going to try and outsmart him.
Yep.
And that's where they get in their own head.
Agree. Because you're constantly thinking, well, he's going to think that I'm going to do this, but he's going to know that I'm going to think that he's going to do this. And so I'm going to do the opposite. But no, wait, I'm going to go back and do the thing that I was going to do in response to what he was going to do. It's like, there's a million possibilities in a football game. You can't plan for everyone.
John Butler, hearing him talk, he's intelligent enough to be this kind of coordinator. And I think he's aggressive enough to get there. Eventually, he's going to be at the point that, like, when an offensive coordinator calls a timeout because he showed him a certain look, he knows exactly what he's going to go to coming out of it. He's just not there yet. He's still learning a little bit from a defensive coordinator position. Yeah. But he's somebody that I'm super confident in how he will grow as a coordinator.
And as a reminder, we have a lot of freshmen on that side of the ball and sophomores. Mm-hmm. So that's that. So yeah. So I'm curious what your thoughts are for the game this coming Saturday. What you think, what we'll actually see in terms of mentality, emotional excitement, investment, effort. What kind of Nebraska is going to come out of the tunnel on Saturday?
I think defense is going to feel like they're going to come out with something to prove against the run. They just are. I expect a bounce back game from the linebackers. I thought they struggled a lot Friday night against Minnesota in the run game. I expect to see a huge bounce back in the secondary in terms of tackling and maintaining inside leverage when they're in man coverage. Offensively, I hope to see a game plan similar to Maryland. A lot of quick game, take your shots when they're there. Like, even though we lost this game, and this is actually the only game. I know Minnesota had 9 sacks. Michigan's the only game where I felt like the offensive line legitimately got whooped. But outside of the offensive line getting whooped, like, I thought that was the best called offensive game. You got Barney on the post for a touchdown. You did a lot of good things.
Michigan, you're talking.
Yeah, Michigan.
The way they called the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
The offense moved the ball, played well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had an opening drive. You marched right down the field. You just didn't convert fourth down. Like,
yeah.
I'd like to see somewhere between Michigan and Maryland. I want more run game, obviously. You're actually, surprisingly, you're pretty good at running the ball. You just got to be dedicated to it.
And these last, 3 out of 4 games, their rushing totals look terrible because of the sacks. I mean, yeah, when you're taking 9 sacks, that's a lot of yardage you're losing out on. So Emmett Johnson leads the Big Ten in rushing. Hello.
Yeah.
Like there's something to be said for that. So,
and you're like top 20 in yards before contact.
Is that right?
Somewhere in there. It was like 17th before Friday.
Which means you're opening up holes for him to run.
Yeah.
Which is great. Again, at this point, it's a moot point to talk about a second running back. We don't run the ball enough to have 2 backs. And maybe that's why they don't run. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, but Emmett only had 14 carries in a game that you were down by 1 point for the most of the game. That just goes back to, again, I don't know what the vision for the game is. Rule talked about that. Like I cannot imagine a world in which a Matt Rule is like, hey, I don't want to run the ball a lot in this game. So that's what gets me concerned. Is there a disconnect? Is what Dana is seeing not what we see? Again, I'm not Dana Holgorsen. I'm not as smart as him. I'm not as football smart. He must be seeing something, but then that gets into, again, execution. Like what's going on with Dylan? We didn't even talk about that at this point. I thought Michigan State was one of the worst games he had played. Nope. It was this one. I don't know what's going on. There's times there were guys open. I mean, I don't see the all 22. I don't have access to that. But what I can see,
Michael Rose-Ivy to see if he could get it, and he's trying to get it too.
What I could see on my screen a few times, like, no, there's the guys open. There are.
Yeah.
I know there was other issues, right? He threw a beautiful pass to Hunter and he dropped it. That happens. I don't think Hunter's had many drops this year, and so it comes at a terrible time. But like there's times Dylan needs to put his foot in the ground and run right away. If he sees an opening, pick up 4 yards. It's way better than losing 9.
Sometimes, so couple things here. A lot of the times, because of the play design, that sack does actually end up being better than an intentional grounding because it's never rolling.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's something to keep in mind as fans. But I mean, I know we try not to be critical. I am just super disappointed in his ability to navigate the pocket, like point blank.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of the times when it's time for him to start scrambling, he looks like a diesel trying to start up in sub-zero temperature without glow plugs.
Yeah.
Whole lot of black smoke and not a lot of revving.
And his eyes are usually on the defenders, not downfield. And so even if a guy might have snuck open, he can't hit him. Severe
posted the screenshots of when Mosey broke open on the wheel route, and that time Dylan saw ghosts. The pocket was clean.
Yeah. There's the occasional time he'll make an incredible scramble and play like he did with Lyndon Meyer. Great, but man, there's 5 or 6 other times when he doesn't make that play. And this isn't to say, like, oh, he can't improve, but this is outside of the speed issue, which you brought up. This isn't a physical issue, right? It's not like he can't make a throw. It's not like he doesn't know how to play quarterback, but there's something going on right here. And I just refuse to believe, oh, well, he got sacked 6 times against Michigan and that kind of ruined him for the year. No, like good athletes can bounce back from that. Good football players can bounce back from that. It happened again at Michigan State. It didn't happen at Maryland. He only got, because they had, again, good game plan.
And he bounced back from 3 interceptions in that game.
And and then this game wasn't so great. So Dana made a comment about my goal is to keep, him comfortable back there. And I saw some comments. I don't know if you made a comment about this. But somebody said something like, no, that's not the goal. He needs to be uncomfortable to grow or something like that. And I was like, I don't think that's how Dana meant it. I think Dana meant I need to call the game in such a way that he feels like he can produce as a quarterback. That's all I took from it. And that in some ways was Dana putting it on himself to say, I need to make a game plan that Dylan can succeed at. That's what I took from his comment about making sure Dylan is comfortable.
100%.
Of course, Dylan's going to be. Every football player is going to be uncomfortable. Have you
ever stood
hit
in a pocket?
It's like you're getting hit all the time. Like, no, like that. Of course, you grow through that, but in the moment, a quarterback needs to feel confident. I know what we're doing, and I know who's going to be open, and I'm going to get him the ball. And then you play that play, and now you do the next play.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to the tempo because you're bringing up the confidence part, and I think that's a huge part of his struggle right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's not confidence in his ability. I just don't think he's trusting his eyes anymore because he's been confused enough pre-snap.
Mm-hmm.
And I, even if you only do it for a couple of series, I think you got to run some tempo on Saturday just to get him into read and react, because that last drive against Maryland, that was special.
It was. Yeah, because you're like you said, read and react. You're not thinking. You're just playing ball.
Mm-hmm.
And it like you hear professional athletes talk about that a lot, right? Like in their best moments, they say, "Man, it was just like being a kid in my backyard," because that's the goal of sports, right? Like winning is the goal, but ultimately, the ultimate goal is I'm having fun playing a game. The outcome of that is I win, but I only won because, man, I was in flow. I was in the zone. I was just playing like I played as a kid with my dad or my mom in the backyard or on the court or whatever. So he's not there right now. I also refuse to believe, again, all these sacks are on the offensive line, right? There's a lot of times we've talked about stepping up in the pocket. He could get rid of the ball quicker. Is he changing? This is something I asked you before, or kind of texted about. Like, is he changing the play from a good one to a bad one? I don't know, because I don't know what the other play was. But that goes through my mind with his pre-snap freedom, which we've talked about on the show. He has a lot of freedom. Does he have too much freedom? He's still a sophomore.
Well, and you heard Dana talk about it like a couple of times. A lineman missed a check, a running back missed a check, he had a wide receiver not run a route. Like, simple things like that are a big part of the problem. Like, it's not all the
communication.
I feel like I have to get this off my chest. I don't go back and look at our YouTube comments, and I've probably been ripped on this 100 times, but I get into this fight, it seems like every weekend on X, except for post Maryland. When I tell you that the offensive line is not as bad as you think they are, that is not me sitting here and saying that the offensive line is great. I think everybody agrees the offensive line needs to be better. But as I go back through Matt Rule and Dana Holgorsen's comments, out of those 9 sacks on Friday, by the way, I'm not even counting the last sack in garbage time. So I'm basing off of 8. 4 or 5 out of those 8 have been dedicated from the coaching staff to other positions.
Yeah.
4 sounds a lot better than 9. 4 sounds a lot better than 8.
Yep.
Like, again, offensive line has to be better. But there are a lot of failures around them that is making the sack number worse. And again, Dylan is holds the ball longer than most quarterbacks in college football. You can't be that bad of an offensive line if that is true. His time to throw is pretty good. He's not even the most pressured in the Big Ten, but he does get sacked at the highest rate on pressures.
Yep.
And you're top 25, top 20 in yards before contact on the run. And before Friday, you were top 25 in yardage created by the line, which accounts for screens and other plays like that. Like, there are things that the offensive line does really well that are being overlooked because of sacks.
Yep. I'm hoping they can put it all together this week. Again, we see the sack narrative, and then losing a game like you did to Minnesota. You'd think we're 2-5 by how fans respond right now, right? The reality is they still hung with Michigan. They beat a top 25 team in Cincinnati. They absolutely pummeled two teams they should have. They had two come from behind victories. I know they were up, come from behind Michigan State. They were down in the second half. And then they came from behind against Maryland. Terrific 2-minute drill at the end, like you already talked about. And so this isn't an awful team, but the sacks and then whatever's going on between the ears with Dylan is, I think, that's the consternation that a lot of fans feel is because of that. If you took the sacks in half, like you're pointing out, and you put a little more effort in at Minnesota, but still come up short because, second road game in a row, night game at Minnesota, and you came up short. You came up short, because they won the game. Maybe you end up, it was 21-17. I don't think people feel like they would feel because of.
You don't feel like people feel the way they do today.
Yeah, they would. I don't think they would feel this way today. I think we could say, man, but look at all the good. Despite an offensive line that has never played together. Like the 5 guys on the line have never played together before this year.
Especially on Friday night.
Right. And then you had 5 new guys, or 2 new guys with the other 3 who do not play together. And that's why there's a reason they call that a unit. They play as a unit. So if one guy misses a check, all of a sudden you don't protect on a blitz and you're sacked. So I think to your point, I think the offensive line has done good things, and I don't think Donovan Raiola is as bad as people are making him out to be. I think that there's issues again with communication, offensive play calling, quarterback holding the ball. I do think receivers are getting open, but on some plays they don't. And sometimes, darn it, it's the perfect storm when a guy is not open and there's a free runner because the communication was not there, and Dylan doesn't want to let go of the ball because he's afraid. Like, and then you're just, but the previous play, the guy was open.
Mm-hmm.
And we either hit him or it was an incomplete pass. But it's like, so when stuff goes bad in these last 4 games, it just goes really bad.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, like the lows for this team are going to be really low. But when they're good, they're really
good.
Now you got to find a way to bring
the mitigate
valleys.
The lows.
You got to bring those valleys up. I don't care if you take away from some of the mountaintops too, though. Like, I would rather be more constant with a little bit of a peak here and there.
Yep.
But as a fan, it is hard to live through the peaks and valleys. I totally understand that.
It is.
Even when you're 5-2.
And 5. I hope they go. I hope they get to 6 this week. I don't know if they will. We'll get to that in our predictions. Before we get to the predictions, we're already at 54 minutes, so we don't have to spend a ton of time. But I want your thoughts on basketball really quick. And I know this is a Husker show, but I know you're a Creighton guy. Both teams quick. What are you expecting from Husker basketball? And then what are you expecting from Creighton this year? And
from
if people are listening
yeah.
and you're like, I don't really care about basketball, that's fine. Fast forward to our predictions. When football's over, we talk basketball because we love
Yeah.
basketball. So
I'm not I'm not gonna lie. I don't know as much about Nebraska basketball as this roster as I wish I did today.
I was at the game
Um,
and I was at the game on Saturday. I had my roster with me the whole time because I'm like, I don't recognize any of these
yeah,
guys.
like I think I think having Jamarcus Lawrence and Rink Mass back is huge. I think Burke is going to surprise a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, but that's just kind of where I'm at right now. Like, I think Connor Sejan is going to be a great spark guy off the bench.
Hmm.
Um, I I think he's a much better defender than people give him credit for when he wants to, and I think that's something that Fred's got to get out of him a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I didn't see any of that scrimmage. I don't know enough about this team to like give a really strong prediction. Um,
I was there. I'll just interject quick. I was there. I was really impressed because BYU is very athletic,
mhm.
incredibly athletic. And obviously it's an exhibition. So there's a lot of subbing out and there's weird rotations. And coaches are they're trying to figure out what they have, both sides, BYU and Nebraska. So, their starting lineup was like, okay, that's not going to be their starting line. Like Cale Jacobson started the game. Like Cale's not going to start when this season starts. But what I was impressed at, and I would say this for BYU too, both teams wanted to win that game so bad. And so from the BYU side, you're a Sweet 16 team. You expect that. I was happy to see Nebraska play that way too, whether it was your potential starter all the way down to your bench guys. They wanted to win. And even though it was a high scoring game, 90-89, I was actually pretty impressed at Nebraska's defense because I wondered how they would hold up. They have tall guys. They don't have big guys. That's where I think they're going to struggle when you get into Big Ten play. I hope I'm wrong with that. I hope that their shooting, which was elite,
Yeah.
can bring people out of the paint. I mean, their shooting was incredible, and I hope it's actual truth this time, where we say this is the best shooting team Fred Hoiberg has had. So I hope that helps, but they just lack size, girth, right? They're just not big dudes. You got 6'10", 6'11", 7'2", you got a bunch of guys who are 6'6", but it's like, man, I know it's not basketball today, but I don't think it's too much for me to just say, man, I just want one guy who's like 6'9", 255 and can
Yeah.
just be a bully. And I get that's not like there's no Charles Barkley's in basketball anymore, but can't I just have one? I wish we had one. So anyway, I think they'll struggle in the paint a little bit, but if they shoot it like they did, they'll win a lot of games. So
Yeah, I think my fear for this Nebraska team, and it's been pretty consistent during Fred's time, and that's not a knock on Fred. I think these are three really hard things to get. Um, at the college level, they're really hard to get. And when I was covering Creighton, I was blessed to usually have two out of the three. They don't have like a they don't even have like a really good rim protector,
no,
let alone elite.
no,
And then they do always struggle to rebound the ball, like on the defensive end. So they didn't go out and get a rim protector. They didn't go out and get like a true lockdown defender, like, hey, you go guard the other team's best player all night. And I don't know, like in crunch time, if you need somebody to go get you a bucket, if you have that guy, like
that's what I
Rink
thought.
Mess is probably your go-to guy, but he's not creating for everybody. I think he
No.
does a ton of great things for that offense, but he's not a creator. Creighton, I'll be able to answer a lot better. I think that team, ooh, that team is going to run into a problem of how do we get everybody minutes and touches. They have 12 legitimate guys that could play serious minutes any given night.
And you kind of got
I
to get it
like
down to 8 to 9.
I like all the flexibility that they've created. They can play pretty positionless basketball. which should help them on the defensive end. They got a lot more size for the first time in a while across the board. I think I'm torn in this really weird place where I think because of the transfer portal and NIL and college basketball, where I now for the first time think it's easier to have a team of a lot of newcomers versus 1 to 2 newcomers. I think with 2 newcomers, they're trying to fit into an established role and fit in. Whereas if you have a bunch of newcomers, everybody's learning together.
Yep.
And I just think right now, the first month of college basketball is just going to be really ugly for a while. I think that's going to be kind of the going theme for a few years. I think Creighton can get to the Elite Eight again. I think Nebraska could get their first tournament win this year, depending on matchup.
That's a key.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to hear your thoughts more on Creighton. Maybe we can do that next episode after they play some real games. The actual games start, I think, to 29th, November 1st. What is it? I don't remember. Nebraska kicks off, I think, November 2nd. Maybe their first game is. So,
yeah, I'm excited to be able to sit down and watch now that I no longer cover college basketball.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, let's do predictions here quick for Northwestern. Do you have a oddly specific and a score prediction?
Oof.
Our oddly specifics, by the way, have been horrible this season. I think you got one.
I nailed the special teams one.
You got the special teams one.
So
we're one for the collective.
Somebody got a strip sack. It was the wrong guy, but they got a strip sack.
I think Andrew had that one. Yeah. Oddly specific is they're going to go tempo first drive.
No.
Yes. I don't think that'll happen, but we'll see.
I'm going to say Nebraska gives up 2 or less sacks.
Yeah. I could actually see that happening.
Yeah.
I think, did last game have to happen to get to, okay, let's look ourselves in the mirror and say, kind of, that's what we've been talking about this whole time. Okay, so 2 or less sacks. Okay, my oddly specific prediction is I think Emmett gets over 22 carries. I think Dana will atone for his mistake of not giving Emmett the ball enough. So Emmett will go over 22 carries, which will mean over 100 yards, put him over 820 for the year, at least. He's almost at 1,000. He's still got 5 games left. So,
yeah. And I'm going to add to this. I think each of your big 3 receivers, so Barney, Key, and Hunter, I think they all get 6 or more targets. Barney, count that as a jet sweep as well.
I want some more jet sweeps. Where have they been?
It feels like we haven't ran one all year.
Let's see them.
Since Cincinnati.
Or the push pass, whatever. I don't care if it's a run or pass. Get in the ball. All right, you got a score prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to go Nebraska 31-17. Do
you think they bounce back?
I do.
Okay. Well, I think Nebraska will bounce back. I'll be there. Nebraska has won the last 2 times a Prush has been at the Northwestern game. In Lincoln, I should say.
Were you at the random walk-off field
You bet goal? I was. You bet I was. That's the worst game I've ever been to that we won in my life. But we won, and then my wife and my daughter were at the best game of the Scott Frost era, the 56-7.
Yaquez Yant legacy game.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So I'm going to say Nebraska 24, Northwestern 23.
See, I feel like they have to cover one. They haven't covered against the Power 4 all year.
I hope they cover, but I'm going to say Northwestern kicks a couple field goals, and that's the 1 point difference, and Nebraska is able to run out the clock in the fourth quarter, and the home crowd is behind them. It's going to be a beautiful day for football, and so I hope the Husker Nation shows up and is loud and is ready, because I think we're going to need to supply a little bit of energy It's one of those games, right?
Yeah.
So
Plus side, the only 2 games we lost this year, I didn't get to watch the opening few drives for various reasons. I will be firmly planted on my couch before kickoff, so that's just a win. We're undefeated
we
when
have
I'm out on the couch before kickoff.
we got 2 things going for us. All right.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We'll end it there. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it as always. Again, subscribe to the show, helps more people find us, and you will not miss an episode. Enjoy the game, everybody. We'll see you next time. Go Big Red.